Welcome back, everybody. Got another little gunsmithing video for you today. Today we're going to do a trigger job on the SKS. Very simple arrangement. If you have any type of knowledge of the SKS, you know it's a very safe design. It utilizes a disconnector arrangement. You've got this bar that when the bolt follows over it, the bar pushes down and lines up the trigger bar with the back of the sear in a precise arrangement, allowing the trigger bar to push forward and disengage the sear. When the sear disengages, it lets the hammer fall, but the hammer will only fall if this safety notch is pushed down far enough. So it's a very safe arrangement. Even if the hammer were to slip, if the bolt is not in full battery, the hammer will not fall. Very safe design, very efficient, very easy to work on. If you do not feel comfortable messing with this trigger mechanism, you need to leave it alone right now, because improper trigger job done on this thing can lead to uncontrollable full auto fire. It can lead to just all kind of unsafe things. If you don't know what you're doing or you don't feel comfortable, send it to me and let me do it, or take it to a professional gunsmith. Don't risk it if you're not comfortable doing it. This little window right here where my thumb is on the left side of the trigger mechanism, you're going to be using that a lot. When the weapon fires and the hammer pushes back onto this bar, it pushes the trigger bar under the sear like that. So bang, it fires, the trigger's pressed down, this bar is down, the hammer falls back, and then the trigger bar is caught under the sear, and as you gently release the trigger, that metallic click you hear right there, okay? So this bar has to be in a precise arrangement in order for the sear to be pushed forward. Right there you can see the trigger bar is pushing directly against the back of the sear. The first thing that we're going to do, we're going to pull the sear out, we're going to shorten it. That is going to help. I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to line the trigger bar up, and I'm going to show you the amount of creep that this trigger has. See all that creep that it just exhibited right there? We just exhibited a strong amount of creep in this trigger. That's a lot of creep. So what we're going to do is we're going to shorten the sear at a precise angle, and that's going to help with the creep. Let's do that first. Now there's a couple of ways you can go about taking this group apart. For most trigger work, all you have to do is pull this magazine disconnect plunger back, hold it back with your thumb, pull this pin out, pull this assembly out. You've got your return spring and then your magazine catch. Put it to the side. What you'll do at this point, once those components are out, go ahead and line the disconnector up with the trigger bar, push the sear forward, allow the hammer to drop, take the group, tilt it down, give it a smack, and there's your sear. You can generally tell a whole lot by looking at a given component. If we look at the top of the sear, we see some drag marks and some rough marks where you can tell the fit is not quite where it needs to be. Do not attempt to change the angle of this sear at all. Keep it just like this. Alright. We're going to go ahead and move over to the belt sander. I'm going to proceed to shorten the sear. That's going to be our first step. That looks real nice. That's about what we want. I'm going to check the fit again, get the length of the sear just the way we want it. One thing I can't stress enough, you don't want to get this thing too hot because you don't want to draw the temper out of it. This part needs to be very hard. Alright, we performed our initial trimming of the sear. Now you noticed in the previous shot we had those bright marks on the top of the sear where the actual hammer engages against the sear. We're going to attempt to clean that up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and stone the sides of the sear just a little bit. That'll help smoothen up the travel overall, alright? You want to avoid making any changes to the actual angle of the top of the sear. Now the thing to think about with these SKS trigger groups is that they vary a lot depending on where they're made. Now the Yugo trigger groups, which is what we have here, they're among the best made there is. So this is, to be honest with you, this is really not the best overall trigger group to use for this video, because the Chinese ones, woo, those things can be all over the place in terms of fit and finish, and that would have been a little bit better example. Alright, I'm going to reposition the camera and I'm going to show you the best way to check as to what's going on with this trigger group. Alright, what you want to do at this point, after you have assembled your trigger group, after you've modified the sear, push back on the hammer, make sure everything's locked down. Very carefully take the disconnector, this arm that I'm pushing with right here, push it against the table. You don't want to allow the hammer to fall on the body of the trigger group if possible. Go ahead and push it down until it contacts the window. It's okay to allow the hammer to strike the edge of the table. That's not going to hurt nothing. All you're doing is you're stopping the movement. So what you want to look for is just, you know, how much you've shortened it. So right now we're looking at the length of the sear. It has to travel a considerable amount. Now even though I just polished it up, we still do have a lot of travel. It's a heck of a lot smoother just from that little bit of polishing that I did on it. We do have a little bit of negative sear engagement, which is not optimal. This video is not really meant to show you changing the angle of the actual sear to hammer arrangement. The main thing is we just want to make what's here better. So I'm going to go ahead and yeah, that sear can go a lot shorter, and that's going to make this trigger a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process, and we're going to go ahead and get the sear out of here and shorten it some more. In terms of this surface on the back, you can see we've shortened it a considerable amount. You don't even have to have the magazine catch and spring and retaining bar and all that in there. Throughout this process, you don't even have to take the hammer out unless you just want to. So push the hammer down, place the sear back in. You can see there's nothing in the front of the trigger group. We're just going to put it against the table. We're going to test our safety. Safety looks good. We're going to take the safety off, get her lined up. That's nice. That's probably about 4 pounds. That's exactly what you want. Still got just a bit of crease, but I don't want to shorten the sear too much to the point where the gun would be in any way unsafe. Alright, and what I'll do is go ahead and pop this cover off. We got rid of all of our negative sear engagement. The hammer doesn't move at all. It does a little bit. Looks very good. Hopefully you guys will glean some knowledge from this video, and maybe if you got a real junky Chinese SKS and you want to improve the trigger, maybe now you can.